Hey, everybody, this is James Pelton. I hope you're having a good Tuesday so far. I'm here with Carlos. We're going to be talking about Rune Realms, the game that he's building and his team's been building for quite a while. I'm really excited to talk about it. Personally, I love crypto. I love passive income. I love, returns, and I love gaming. Okay, so I always love to see these types of projects come together. I've been waiting in the crypto space for gaming to take off. So, Carlos, I'd love to talk with you a little bit about that and just this how gaming, where it is in this space right now. But before we get started with that, audience, need you guys to hit the like button. If you have questions or discussion topics or anything that you want to bring up, go ahead and ask those, and we will direct the conversation in that direction as it fits into the conversation. So appreciate guys who are here already. Shadow Omnier, good to see you. Justin, is always good to see you. Alif, good to see you. Yeah, please hit like button and let's go ahead and jump into it. So Carlos, can you go ahead and start us off with a quick introduction of you and your background?
Yeah, so I'm Carlos Arthur. I've been working in the game industry since I was like 17. I started as a concept artist, and then I kind of changed careers where I started working. I built like my own marketing agency, and then from there, even like marketing agency was involved in the entertainment industry. We were working more with schools that basically teach people how to become like concept artists, VFX artists, and so on. And then I joined a very awesome team at CGMA. That is like one of the largest schools that train people in VFX, animation, concept art. And yeah, so basically pretty much like all of my career has been in the entertainment industry and gaming industry and in general.
Okay, very good. So you are a gaming expert, you might say.
Yeah, kind of. And
Okay.
even like right now, like I'm just here by myself, but the co-founders of the company of MetaStudio, um, they're also like industry pros, like they are veterans in the industry. Like some of them work, for example, in games like Guild Wars. One of our co-founders worked like in Shrek and Kung Fu Panda
Oh,
and How to Train Your Dragon and so on. So it's a
cool.
very experienced team overall that we have like going on, and yeah.
Okay, very cool. I love Guild Wars. That was one of my staples growing up. So that's awesome. That makes me even more excited. So let's go ahead again. Assuming the audience, they have no idea what is
Mhm.
MetaStudios, what is Rune Realms, what's going on here. Can you kind of give us an elevator pitch of what you guys are trying to build?
Yeah, sure. So MetaStudio basically started like 3 years ago now. And initially, we basically worked on creating, the idea was to create Rune Realms. It was like a native Web3 game. And for us, basically, to show our ability to bring a product to market, we pretty much started working on Rune Realms Rebirth. That was like a very simple, idle, play to earn game. And that was basically like the main idea. We built that project, and we always had the idea of launching that. But one of the things that we never actually got like in line into was the use of a token in a game. So like after just going like we literally have like a like 60 70 page around that like documentation on just tokenomics, which we still need to update the website. And we ended up like removing the token in the game. So what we basically decided to do, because during that time of building Rune Realms, we actually built an entire game studio, right? So we basically built other games other than Rune Realms. We outsourced the studio. We are currently working with another project called Marvin Inu, and we're building their own game as well. They are like a meme coin, but the game doesn't have a token either. So with that evolution of the studio, we basically decided it would be a better idea to change the way that we will basically position the game and structure. And what started as an idea of a play to earn game, it kind of became a play to invest kind of game. And it's basically where we are right now with Rune Realms. So giving people a chance of owning a piece of a game studio pretty much, or the revenue of a game studio. Um,
Okay.
and with that, basically allowing people to look at, we are now opening our Discord to display more of what we've been building for the past for the past like 3 years, and yeah, it's been a very interesting journey.
Okay, very cool. So is Rune Realms kind of like the main thing that you're focused on right now, or is MetaStudio planning on doing a whole bunch of different games, or what's kind of the relationship there?
Yeah, so MetaStudio, like we have right now 3 games in the pipeline, and we are also outsourcing studio to build games in Web3.
Okay, so
Yeah,
MetaStudio is bigger than just Rune Realms.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
the right way to think about it. Okay,
Yeah.
so maybe you want to talk about Rune Realms and how this game works and when it might come out. And a lot of
Hmm.
play to earn games have not done well, and so I like
Yeah.
that. We almost have to get rid of that term. It's not working
Hmm.
out in the space. Do you just want to tell us a little bit about this game and the dynamics of it?
Yeah. So like initially, like I was saying, like we started building the like our mini game, but the idea for the mini game was then to transition into a game kind of like Clash of Clans. That is the one that you see below. And that game in particular, the idea is to have a more NFT driven product than being a token, and also allowing to have an economy that is owned by the players and not by the studio. One of the things that we've seen over and over and over again, when you have a token, the incentives usually behind that is for players to sell the token and studios sell the token to make money to basically to fund the project. And that is a dynamic that really doesn't work well because the incentive between players and studio doesn't work together, right? So what you're doing and what you want to build is an ecosystem where basically players they own their assets and they can do whatever they want with the assets, and that is how they can quote unquote earn in the ecosystem. So earlier I was talking about guild wars, and you mentioned that you played guild wars. You know how like in the guild wars you have the black market, right? You go in, and even the black market, it kind of looks like a market because you can list your items to a lower price than other people, and people can buy, and you have like a whole like trading mechanism around the game. The problem with that is you have like two main pieces that are very interesting that happen in dynamic of Web2 traditional games. That is one, if you want, for example, to buy a legendary weapon in Guild Wars right now, even if it's like a generation one, it still costs around like $150 to buy like a legendary weapon in the game. But for you to do that, you need to either go on a real black market on the internet to do that and potentially get banned, or you need to basically to buy gems in the game, and then with those gems in the game, basically buy the weapon inside of the game. Right. The problem with that is it doesn't really allow the player to have like a freedom with their own assets, and that's the way that we think that the space should evolve and just basically allow people to trade what they own in the game. But before that, the most important aspect of everything is just making sure that you have like a fun game experience overall for players.
Okay, very cool. So when we're talking about getting some revenue share, is this
Hmm.
something that you're selling for Rune in particular for Rune Realms, or is this for the
Hmm.
gaming studio as a whole?
It's for the gaming studio as a whole. Yeah,
Okay.
so but what we're doing is just to explain a little bit further is we are using the mini game for Rune Realms. What we did basically in the past month was updating the entire game, and I'm not sure if I can share my screen, but if I can later on share like how that looks like right now. And
Sure.
the idea is like we basically created a system where it gamified the whole experience on what you can do with NFTs and what you can do in the ownership of the studio. So what we built was a system where you have 5 different golems, and each golem has like a different element. So you have like a fire, a stone, a crystal, a nice one, and then a plant one. And then based on those golems, you can merge 4 of them to basically increase your percentage in studio. But it is like the percentage in the studio. So basically, meaning what we build in terms of outsourcing, what we build for ourselves, and also what we build in like in for Web2 even, that all becomes a potential part of the revenue.
Okay, very cool. I love revenue, so I like to hear that. And that's been a big problem with play to earn games in the past. Is where does the revenue come from? So you kind of talked about it a little bit, but you kind of want to just walk us through. Maybe let's start with the gameplay of Rune Realms. Maybe that would be a helpful place to start. And yeah, if you want to share your screen, you're welcome to. I have it kind of pulled up here too. But do you want to kind of talk about what you guys have already? You said you were kind of working on this rebirth. Are you kind of abandoning that and going to Clash, or is this still in the works, or what's kind of the roadmap we're looking at?
The Clash is still in the works. Like this game it looks a simple game, but it is fairly complex on what you're building. So that is something that we didn't share much about the gameplay for that. It's funny, we've shared like gameplays for other projects that we are building, including outsourcing projects that we are building. But for Rune Realms Clash, we didn't share it yet because right now the game looks like a box in the screen with a lot of just like code and math. Pretty much, it's not very fun to look at because it's a fairly complex game that we are building. The whole idea for that game in particular is like it is set in the world of the 9 realms of Norse mythology. And then we allow players to select, or we are going to allow players to select what realm they want to be part of. And then based on that realm, they'll be able to participate like in realm wars, in clan wars, and so on. So in order for us to balance that, it's just like pretty much spreadsheets and blocks on the screen at this point. It will take us around an extra like 6 months to fully finish the game, and to build like the rest of the visuals that we need and finish the game. And we are basically going to, now that we are going to the transition, like even our rebranding, to share more about MetaStudios in general, we are going to start sharing more about Rune Realms, because before, if we are basically looking at the project as it was, it made more sense to just basically display scenes of rebirth. That is basically what visually like is beautiful to look at in terms of visuals than just like simple blocks. But now, like because we want to involve people in the process, we can basically start showing that behind the scenes of, even if the scenes that don't look scrappy, just like green boxes on the screen, people can still understand like how the game looks like and see the entire process behind it as well.
Okay, very good. So you mentioned it's kind of like Clash of Clans. So it's going to be a mobile game, or will you be able to play on your browser?
Browser and mobile. So
Okay.
it will be like we'll have like the port for both browser and mobile. And one of the reasons for that is because the interaction of NFTs will primarily be browser based. So even if you play like on your like iPhone or on your like Android device, we are going to, at least in the initial phase, be a little bit limited about what you can do in terms of NFTs, and then basically have an experience for web, just because of how the stores pretty much like work at the moment.
Okay, gotcha. So in Clash of Clans, you're kind of like building a civilization, right? And then you build houses, and every so often you have to wait then a certain number of minutes before your worker can go do their next thing. Is that kind of the same idea of what you guys are doing with this?
Yeah, that is like a core element of gameplay. Like we can go in depth on actually why Clash of Clans does that and why it is actually a very smart way of building things. But yeah, like it's the same element. It's a real-time strategy game, and one element that we are building, and it's a bit challenging to build, more in psychological level of things, is the way that Clash of Clans work right now is basically is like one player versus another player, right? It is like player versus player. What they are building is in a way that you will be able, for example, to play player versus player. So you have like your clan battling another clan, but because you have like the realms and you need to battle the realms, at one point you will have to basically join forces with once your enemies inside of the same realm to basically battle the other members from other realms, and then keep building your realm. So you have to have a balance between how you basically battle between inside of your realm for resources, and how you can also grow your realm so you're not defeated by other realms as well.
Okay, very good. And then can you talk about where the revenue comes from? So again, I know Clash of Clans, they kind of revenue comes in from, oh, you want your timer to be sped up so you can buy this boost. Are you guys kind of doing the same model?
Yeah. So for you to have an idea, Clash of Clans, they make around 1 million to 3 million per day just selling gems. So we are basically using the same gem system. But one interesting thing that we are doing is outside of the revenue share and that will be exclusive for Web3. So for the Web2 version of the game, people still get like the 10% of the revenue share for the studio. But for the first year, what you're doing is basically every gem sold in Web3 will just basically 80% of it will just go to the holders of golems as a thank you for supporting us through the process and through the journey. Like we've been basically building this for like 3 years now, and like building the studio like for 3 years. And we have like people that have been with us for so long, it just makes sense like for us to reward like every supporter in a way that is meaningful as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a ton of money being made in these mobile games. So if we're able to get some of the Web3 stuff into that market, I mean, that could be huge. And again, one of the passions I have for my channel is helping non-crypto people get into Web3.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think gaming, I've always thought gaming is going to be a way to bridge that gap, but we just are waiting for some fun games to actually come out.
I honestly believe that the best way to onboard people in Web3, it will be through gaming. And one thing that we've basically been playing around in an idea is, let's say, for example, you start playing the game in Web2. You have no idea that it's a Web3 game. Just like play the game because it's fun. But then you evolve, for example, your town hall to level 5, right? And at that point, you have a notification on your phone that says, hey, by the way, like your level 5 town hall is on NFT. If you want to claim it as a collectible, that basically you own that piece of content and that piece of digital like building, you can basically just like log into this page and claim that for you. And at that point, you start onboarding people into Web3 in a way that is more organic because they feel that they have a benefit from going to their normal building and then transitioning to, for example, to Web3. And you can have like perks attached to that, where, for example, if they transition to Web3, they get, for example, a boost in speed in terms of building, for example, so the incentive align with the player. But it just allows you to basically to onboard people from Web2 to Web3 in an easier way as well.
Okay, very cool. No, that sounds exciting. So maybe you can talk us through some of the details. So what do people need to do if they want to be part of this pre-sale? Can you give us some details about the pre-sale, how people can get these NFTs? You know, if they're like, hey, I want to, you know, Clash of Clans, like you said, making $1 million a day, and people want to take part in that. What can people do?
The first part will basically just be like join our Discord, pretty much, like because this is where we mainly update people about like what we're doing. And like our white paper, we've had so many changes over like the past month to make sure that we have like something that makes sense for people, that we're just now like updating our white paper as well, to reflect better what you're building. One of the things, for example, that is like the signets that you have like right there in the page. These signets before, it was like a way that we would allow people to basically to buy in bulk a pack of NFTs. And then with that bulk, they would earn a percentage of the studio. We scratched that because we want to make a system that is fair for everyone, right? Like if you calculate the way that these signets were being built, because you have like a rarity chance in the game itself, it was basically being built with that rarity in mind. Therefore, like the price of it was like super high. So we basically made it sure that we can basically have like a platform that everyone can join and participate without being completely weird. So I can actually send you a link.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. You can try to share screen too, but yeah, feel free to send it to me too, and I'll just pull it up.
Pretty much like the way that it will work is to be like this. It's like it's a more like straightforward pre-sale pretty much that we have, where you know like the idea is like you can buy 2 like chests. One chest it has a signet, the other one has the golems, and then inside of the chest basically it allows you to get the golems and combine them. I think that is better. Like let me just actually go in and open just remove the music, so this can have like a better illustration of how that process would work. Can you just 1 second?
Yeah, no problem. And while Carlos is looking for that, I've forgotten too that I have an audience watching. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. And Matthias, good to see you. Appreciate all you guys. Please comment where you're watching from. So PCKP said they're watching from Germany, and I'm always just reminded it's crazy how the world is brought together in things like this. So I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I'm talking to just people from all over the world. So I love that.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
All right,
This looks
so
nice.
yeah, so these here, I'm just like stretching it a little bit. So the way that these will work is pretty much like this. Like ignore the runes on top, but the way that these work is pretty much like this. Once you have like a shrine like this one, and right now, like before we have like these shrines, and we would allow people to have multiple varieties of shrines, and we eliminated that. So whenever like someone mints, it will always be the legendary shrine here. There is this one. This legendary shrine basically allows you to have 5 golems in the shrine, and that will be the standard. And then you can basically connect the golems. So the way that you think about it is basically like your golems is what has the percentage, and then the shrine is basically when the goal is by activating the staking of the golem. So when you add the golem to the shrine, you are staking that golem, and the percentage is active. So when you basically select the golems, you can add them into the shrine. It doesn't really matter. Like you can have like your 5 golems there, and if you basically are collecting golems and you want to upgrade them to a higher rarity, which will be displayed here, you can basically just go in and then merge the golems. So you can only merge them if they are like on the same type, and then once you merge them, they become like pretty much like a single golem of this. It will be the same time. This is like this is the dev build, so you can do whatever you want in dev build. But it will transition to become like a level, like a rare fire golem in that case, and then increasing the percentage in revenue share.
This is so very cool. So this is kind of like this is kind of the marketplace part. I mean, this is where you're getting your revenue share. I think this is pretty cool. Gamifying that. I love that. How can people think through like what people are always trying to figure out, well, what kind of revenue am I going to get from this? If I'm paying this amount of money, when am I going to see ROI on that? How do you guys think through that? Or do you have any estimates or just how should people think through that?
Yeah, so right now we are also building, like besides like our own games, we are also building the division where we are outsourcing the studio, which is something that is actually growing super fast. So people will get a revenue share from that. But like as soon as we have, for example, Rune Realms Rune Realms Clash, that will be around like 6 months after the minting phase, then people will basically start getting revenue share from pretty much everything that is sold inside of the game. And that also includes when we launch, for example, season passes in the game and updates, that will basically be included, not only in Web3, but also Web2 sales as well. Like, especially for games like Clash of Clans, it's easier to sell in Web2 because you can always launch stuff like Facebook ads and YouTube ads for the game, and just like push the marketing of the game on that side. And people will be able to basically get the revenue share from that. But even outside of Rune Realms, it is important to notice that it's basically like a revenue share for the entire studio. So everything that we build for the studio is people basically get the revenue share from that. And you have like other things in the pipeline that we are going to start to share like this week about basically what we've been building. I think that people will be super excited for what is in our pipeline and what we've been doing for the past like 3 years.
Okay, very cool. So, can you buy these now? Is this pre-sale open right now, or are we waiting still?
Yeah, we are waiting. Like we are going to do the pre-sale on the 25th of February, but we decided to postpone that for another month, just because we want to make sure that, like the question that you asked before of, like are people just getting revenue on Rune Realms or is the studio? That seems to be like a question that like a lot of people have, and you have to make sure that it is in the studio and not just Rune Realms. So we are kind of rebranding like our entire marketing to basically to reflect basically what we've been pretty much doing and what the studio has actually done. Because we've basically just been showing around like Rune Realms, there are a lot of things that we never shared, and that now we basically will be able to share with people and show like what we've basically been building overall. Like not just like Rune Realms as a games, but all of the other games that we've built for the past like year, and what we're basically currently building now as well.
Okay, gotcha. So it was originally going to kind of be focused on Rune Realms, but
Yeah.
then you realize, hey, there's a lot more to MetaStudio. There's a lot more to this revenue share than just that one game. Like that's just a
Yeah.
piece of this bigger puzzle. So, okay, makes a lot of sense. If how are you currently like if there's someone who wants to build a game, for
Mm-hmm.
me, for example, I've got a lot of game
Mm-hmm.
ideas and things like that. Do they just get in touch with you? Like, are you open to people coming in and partnering with them, or what's kind of how are you guys getting the ideas for games? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we have like a very like in-depth process for games. Like, so one thing that I can say right now is we have right now 5 games in our pipeline. So like the studio is basically like booked in a way because we have like a lot of games in our pipeline right now, and we are like a 15 people studio, so it's fairly small. And but usually the process that it goes is we sit down. If it's an outsourcing project, usually the person already has an idea of what they want to build, and we just basically advise on what is the best thing that we can do. So, for example, the Marvin community, they are like a very like meme-driven community, and what they're building is very meme-driven. Like you have like Snoop Dogg as a dog in the game, for example, that is like one of the bosses in the game and stuff like that. So one of the things for us is like making sure that even though we want to make it a project that makes sense for their community, we basically advise them in creating a project that everyone will get it, and even like if it's a Web2 person playing the game, they'll have fun playing the game as well. That's basically the whole idea. So the process that we go through first is we basically spent like a 2 weeks just working on the GDD of the game. That is the game design document, making sure that we basically highlight everything that we're going to do for the game, all of the ideas to help you build the lore and story of the game. And then from there, we basically pass to the visual development phase, where our art team just like starts to create like beautiful art for the game. Even if you want to just like do marketing for the game with the visual part of the game, you can start using that to drive like traffic to the game and so on. And while we are building that, the way it usually work is while we are doing the visual development, we are already building the assets for the game. So we basically work like side by side in visual development and visual assets for the game as well. And then basically it's like the development phase, and then it's polishing, it's like VFX and sound effects and so on. But yeah, if anyone basically wants to work with MetaStudios, you can just like ping me on Discord, and we can basically have like go through the whole process and yeah.
Okay, very cool. Davis would like to know, and by the way, audience, if you guys have questions, please bring those up. I appreciate those. You guys always have great questions. Are you guys currently making revenue, or how are you kind of funding things right now as you're getting stuff built?
Yeah, so initially bootstrapped the entire project, right? It was like literally like money out of pocket. And it's one of those things that even like in Web3, even like people in our community are like, well, you guys could have like launched the project and then just use the money. But for us, we prefer like to create an actual product and show people that we can build things, because that's what we do. And even when we announced, for example, even when we announced the revenue share of the studio, we wanted to make sure that we could have like outsourcing projects that we could display. That is something that we are doing right now, and that can be part of the revenue share of the studio. So for us, it's super important to first show and then tell. But yeah, right now the studio is a studio that is not only making revenue, but it's profitable as well. I'm not sure like how much I can share about the profit right now, but it is a profitable studio to run at the moment.
Okay, very cool. No, appreciate that. How big is the team for studio? How long has it been in business? And I've found with gaming studios, a lot of times it's the team that makes or breaks it.
Yeah.
So, do you want to talk a little bit more? You kind of did this in the intro a little bit, but do you want to tell us a little bit more about the team?
Yeah, so our team right now, like it's basically formed by 15 people. These like what we have in the website right now is just like the pretty much like the head of each department. We have like pretty much like me there, that like from every single person talented in the team, then there is me. Like you have like amazing people, and then there is me. Like usually that's like the joke that I like to tell people is like when you look at everyone there, they're just like amazing talented, and then there is Carlos. But yeah, like you have like Ted and Manny. They both founded CG Master Academy. That is one of the largest academy for training VFX and arts, like an artist of in general in the world. And they basically have like years of experience by working at DreamWorks, working in projects like Pirates of the Caribbean, Shrek, like Puss in Boots, and it's just like their portfolio is just like amazing. Rodrigo, Elton, and Valney, they like when we basically joined forces with them, they had just released a game called Retro Machina that actually won Game of the Year in Brazil. So it's a game that you can actually go right now on Steam, like get the game and play. And they basically are like the head of. So Valnei is the head of development. He's like the main dev, and he's the genius behind like every single development in the project. Then Rodrigo is just an amazing artist overall, and Elton is like he is a genius when it comes to level design. That's pretty much it. Like, and we have like the way that the team is built is in like everyone like in Web3 talks about like decentralization, and we kind of work that way where we have like each team like leader taking care of their departments, but we also work like together to make sure that everything aligns. But then each team leader like is super content to take care of the department and just have like the best work that can be done pretty much.
Okay, love it. Yeah, no, that's how I sometimes feel with my team here on my YouTube channel. Is it's all these hard workers and all these great minds, and then it's me, and it's like, oh man, I feel out of place with what I'm doing here. So awesome, love that. Okay, let's talk about the roadmap a little bit because I know that's the most popular question is when, you know. So you kind of mentioned some dates. I assume some of the dates are kind of up in the air, and there's always this tough balance because you don't want to give dates because then you feel like you're held to that date. So maybe we're just looking for rough estimates. We're not looking for exact dates. But do you want to kind of let's start with what's coming up next? What should people keep an eye on? And then what are the plans for the future? If you look out even further than this, 5 years, what do you see out there? But let's start in the near term and kind of work our way out.
Yeah. So like pretty much everything that is up to Q1 2023, it was actually built. If you look like in the roadmap, even like the Q1 like 2023, it was actually everything was built, including the mini game. But we scratched the mini game to basically just making it to streamline the process. So what I showed you now in the merging, we literally have done that like in the past like 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, is when we actually got back and we build like the merging feature in the game. Because before we are basically building an entire mini game for that project. And for where we are heading, I didn't really make sense to keep that. So we scratched that so we can basically focus on building Rune Realms Clash, and we can focus on building the other projects that we have in the pipeline. Because even though it's a mini game, what you're doing was a dungeon crawler, and that still has like a lot of maintenance to do. So we basically just like started to focus on building like the Clash version of the game and also building the part of outsourcing of the studio. Yeah, we are a weird project because when you look at our roadmap, pretty much what is there is pretty much done. And what we have right now in store for us is more in terms of looking in terms of systems inside of the company. So making sure to have like a predictable system for the outsourcing part of the studio. So right now we're actually increasing the studio size. So we are basically hiring more people and increasing the size of the team, so we can basically start getting more outsourcing projects. And on top of that, we are also working in looking into after the launch of Rune Realms Clash, how we can basically further the idea of Web3 gaming in space. So there are 3 core things that we are looking at that are super important for us. One is making tools that allow people to be creative in our ecosystem. The second one is just looking at what actually ownership of your assets digitally, especially in gaming, actually means. And the other one is just like build tools like that allow humans to basically to thrive in our ecosystem. So for us, it's important to the way that we basically see the future of MetaStudios is building something kind of like Roblox, where we create the IP and then we allow people to plug and play for IP and build their own things on top of it. The reason for that is because it creates a true flywheel effect, not only for the business, but also for the community. Because if you think about it, right, you have like the game that is like a single piece of game. It can be super fun, but people will get tired of it eventually. It's just like how it happens. Like you have like a churn rate in any game. But then if you have like creators creating things for the game, what happens is the initial part of the flywheel is the studio creates a community. That community basically grabs creators to create things in the game, and those creators create content. And the more content we have in the game, the higher is the community. Therefore, it basically keeps the loop going and going. And that's basically the goal, is we can create an IP that then allow people to mix and match and build their own things.
Okay. So if you look forward, let's say 5 years. That's a really long time in crypto. Let's do 3 years. If you look forward 3 years, everything's gone according to plan. Where do you kind of see that MetaStudios at that point? This is the dream section of the AMA.
Yeah, I would say like probably that will sound weird, but probably $1 billion company. If everything goes to plan in 5 years, probably be a $1 billion company. I know, like when you talk like about the $1 billion company, it's really hard to look into that perspective. But the reason that we say that is pretty much just because of, again, like having the flywheel effect on, if we are able to build the tools that we want to build in that time, in 5 years, then we really don't see a why not. If people can, for example, let's say that you want to build your game, right? For you to build your game, you need to hire minimum 2 developers. You need to hire a concept artist. You need to hire a 3D artist, an animator, a VFX artist, a sound designer, and you need to hire a game designer if you don't know how to build games. So that person can go in and teach you like, this is what you can do. This is how you can build the games, how you can make the game engaging, the psychology behind the game, and so on. What if we can basically take that out of the way and say, hey, you have these tools here, and you can just like with a couple of sliders build your own game. We don't see why people wouldn't use that to basically start building their own systems in the game, and start building their own games that make it feel unique to what they want to build. There's actually a very interesting case study of, I don't really remember the name of the project, but he was a lawyer that he started to build a modded version of Skyrim, where he ended up building an entire game. I can search that up and then send it to you. He started building an entire game out of Skyrim, and right now is one of the most played games, like based on a Skyrim, basically modded
Forgotten
like
City.
game. Yeah. It is like, it is that one. Yeah, it's one of those things that you look at and you're like, okay, you have like a lot of people that they are super talented, and if we can basically use our expertise to be able to assist people and to build and take their ideas to life, that is basically, it's the goal. And one other thing that we look into is right now what we are doing is we are basically building games as a for-profit company, right? People pay the studio to outsource and we build the game. But one of the things that we are looking into is in the future, as we evolve as a company, because we already have the structure created, I think that what we can start doing is basically looking at companies or at communities that already have an established community and they need a product, and we can basically go behind them and kind of like launch their product, like launch their game in a partnership level. So that way, basically building their community and building a product for their community and getting more people for our community as well.
Okay, very cool. I love that. Have you guys thought any about like no game engines or no code tools that might help people build games easier in Web3?
Yeah, so that's basically the idea behind that. It's like initially to be. I'm not sure if you ever played Overwatch, the game.
Oh yes.
Yeah, you know how in Overwatch you have the workshop in Overwatch, and then you can basically like, there are people that literally build Pokemon inside of Overwatch. So initially the tool will be like a tool that is more like that we basically envision in creating it. And then eventually it basically can evolve into something more interesting where people can just easily build things. There are a lot of tools in the market already that assist people in building in Web3. you want to take in a different angle of it where people can just basically plug and play with our IP at first, do their own things, and then expand it from there. But and other than that, as any game studio, just build like more fun games. That's always the goal. Just build
Yes.
fun games.
Awesome. Matthias would like to know, do you have any concerns about regulation with your Web3 engagement? Gensler and the SEC, they're after crypto right now. Do you guys have any concerns about the regulation side of this?
Yeah, so like the studio is registered in Portugal because it's where I'm at the moment. So we basically registered the studio in Portugal but we do have like two co-founders that are in United States. So Manny and Ted, they're in United States. And for us, we did look a lot into the regulations on how we can make this in a way that it makes sense. We like right now things kind of escalated a bit, so we are going back to the to basically talking for lawyers and making sure that everything that we do is correct. But the way that we are building it is in a system that you can pretty much like claim every 4 months the part of the revenue share. And last time that we checked, that was literally a month ago. Everything was fine. So you're basically going to go back and making sure that is still the case. But there is always ways to get around that in the way that
Yes.
you do the revenue share portion of it. But it's one of those things that it's tricky because I feel like in crypto, especially like for a company like ours, there is a company that is actually a registered company. It is tricky because we tend to try to find like ways to always be like according to the law. And sometimes there are things that we want to do, but we can't because it's just like tricky. You can't do it because of regulations and so on. So for us, ideally, if we could, the way that we will basically do like the revenue share portion, it will just be like an airdrop, but we can't do that, right? So there are things that we need basically to take in consideration and be careful on how we position the company, especially because we are an actually registered company.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, where there's a will, there's a way. So I
Yeah.
like we'll figure it out. Okay, awesome. Well, this has been super helpful. I have a much better understanding. Again, I read through all the white paper and look through the website, but there's nothing like talking to someone from the team just to get an idea of the vision and to just get a good feel for what all is going on. So, is there any other part of the business or other games that you want to talk through or anything that you feel like, hey, I'd really like to get this out before we kind of start talking about calls to action?
Um, I would say like just if anyone is like interested in learning more of what we're doing, just keep an eye like on our Discord for the next week because we are going to share stuff that even people in our community don't have an idea that we have that going on. And I see that will be a very fun, a very fun experience for people to actually look into, like what it takes to build a game studio and what we've basically been doing for the past 3 years.
Okay, so yes, so I'll start. So calls to action. If you're watching this and you're like, "Hey, I love gaming. I love Web3. I like Carlos. It sounds like the team is a hit." If you want to get involved, the best way right now. Here are the free ways. Okay, first off, like this video. Okay, that's very easy. You're already on the page. No reason to not do that. Hop into the Discord. I put a link in there. That's where they'll keep you up to date about, hey, what are we doing right now? When is the pre-sale going to be? Those things, those will all be in the Discord. Follow on Twitter. That helps get the word out. So I left a link to the Twitter. Just go in and just follow. And if that's all you do, that's great. Start interacting with tweets. That helps get the word out a lot as well. And then if you want to get involved financially, there's not a way quite yet, but pay attention in Discord, save your pennies, and soon that will be available. Anything you want to add to that, or did I kind of hit those pretty well?
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, like we try to keep like the community on Discord like updated. It's one of those things that we are a team that we are always building, and we are going to do like an extra effort to just like keep people like more updated moving forward, especially like in studio level. And yeah, we have like some stuff in the pipeline that is super exciting, and we like there are things that I've wanted to talk about it myself for ages now that I can't, and now I finally can. So yeah, so we're super excited to be able to share like and to open that next like part of the studio and open up like what we've been working on. And yeah, like the primary place where we basically update is just like on Discord. We also have like a medium where we talk about like not only the studio but also like our own like vision in terms of Web3. Sometimes we write like more like of philosophical blog posts in terms of like how we see the future of Web3 gaming and so on. If anyone wants to take a look at that, they can share it as well. But the main thing really is like it's our Discord, like making sure that if you want basically to learn more, yeah, just participate on Discord, and everyone there is like super friendly.
Okay, good. It's a friendly community. We need more of
It's a
those
friendly.
in the space for sure. So, well, we'll go ahead and wrap up there. I look forward to as this progresses forward. You know, it's great kind of having this kickoff AMA where hey, we get kind of the general info. But I look forward to as things get built the game. I'd love to feature some gameplay when it's out because I'm just excited for the space to move forward. I feel like I've been waiting for gaming in Web3 forever, and just nothing's really moving and nothing's really happening. So look forward to that coming out.
Yeah, I think that like that one of the things is that is super interesting for us is because you're like a Web2 native team. When we look at the space and the games that are in space, you're like, oh, this is like there's like 10 steps backwards from what gaming should be. So for us,
Yes,
like it was like
totally.
an easy change to be like, okay, like we can do better. So it was like a super easy change to start basically building in Web3, which it has like its challenges as well. Like building, for example, I don't know if you probably saw that in the website, but we've partnered with Somnium that was previously Notified. So they're like amazing. They're like an amazing support in our project, an amazing team altogether. And they've been basically helping us building everything like that is basically Web3 related, like the smart contract and so on. Just because we wanted to make sure to have like a partner that is strong and understands what they're doing, because like building in Web3 is it's challenging. So we can at that like we can focus on doing what we do best, is build games, and then with their support, yeah, we just basically we have like a cool partnership going on pretty much.
I love it. Yeah, I had an AMA with them back in the day as well. And yeah, you're
Mm-hmm.
right. It's not I'm actually a software developer and
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing my first Web3 project right now. And I'm like, this is just such a different way of thinking. And
It is.
it's not as easy as just, oh, program this the same way you would have programmed in Web2. It's a different way of thinking. And there's way less documentation. So like as a
Mm-hmm.
programmer with Web2, I can Google anything and there's
Yeah.
answers to everything. Web3 is new enough where I Google things and it's like, no one has ever had this error before. How is that possible? And so it's a challenge, but it'll get easier as time goes on, I hope.
Yeah. I believe so. Like, and even like the guys at Sony, they're doing a pass at that and making sure that Web3 is easier as well.
Yeah.
So
Love that.
yeah.
Love that. Love to partner with you guys and just help. Let's just make the space more accessible in total. So,
Yeah.
well, awesome. This was super fun. Again, I love gaming, so this just gets me excited to see what happens. So, as we close up here, audience, appreciate you guys very much. Appreciate your questions. Appreciate your attention. Appreciate you watching all the time. Please hit like on your way out. If you're watching this as a replay, please hit like also. But just want to remind you, you can't ask live questions when you're watching as a replay. That confuses a lot of people. And Carlos, thank you for coming on. Thank you for building in the space. I always want to, it's not an easy thing. It's not a cheap thing. So appreciate just what you're doing for the space. And yeah, keep me in the loop as you're moving forward and would love to help just get eyes on things. Love to be a beta tester or an alpha
No
tester,
worries.
maybe even. I'll take any Greek letter testing.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd love to be part of your journey as you go forward.
Awesome. No worries. It was a pleasure to talk to you. And yeah, if anyone like has any questions at all, like for us, like we are like a super open team. You can just like ping us and ask any questions, and we are always ready to answer.
Awesome. Yeah, very true. Carlos is very kind. That's one thing I'll say about you is you are kind. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
There's a lot of people in Web3 that are not kind. Okay. So we need more of that. So Awesome. Well, hey, I hope everybody enjoyed this. Hope it was educational, and hope everybody has a great rest of their day. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.